Hello and welcome to Birdeye Live, the show dedicated to the digital transformation of local businesses everywhere. I'm your host, Justin Meredith, and join me as we learn from industry experts about the how and the why for taking your business online and claiming the most valuable real estate on the internet, that first page of Google. Now, if you're tuning in live, please feel free to say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you. And so today's episode is going to be a good one because last week we had the privilege of sitting down with one of the industry's top SEO or local SEO experts, Darren Shaw. He's the founder of Whitespark. He's involved with the local search ranking factors survey, as well as all kinds of other amazing, SEO materials and things like that. Now, in that webinar, we dove into really the overall state of local marketing in the era of AI. We talked about how local businesses should be approaching 2025, what they can do to prepare for all of the craziness that's going on when it comes to this new kind of search engine, AI search engines. And, that involves things like Perplexity, Search GPT. And we really try to dig into one, how do you show up on these AI search engines? And also, what else do businesses need to do in order to set themselves up for success in 2025. And so for today's episode, we've got some highlights from that. We've got some really amazing insights from Darren that we're going to share with you. But to help me with that and joining me today as my co-host is our very own Sirit Singh. Sirit is part of the marketing team here at Birdeye, and you're no stranger to the Birdeye Live show. Welcome, Sirit. How are you doing today?
Hey Justin, thank you. I'm doing well. And I just want to start by saying that this webinar and this live stream couldn't have come at a better time. With platforms like ChatGPT Search, Perplexity, and Gemini gaining traction, this is a great time for businesses to start leveraging these AI answer engines and to adapt to them. So yeah, really looking forward to some of those insights.
Definitely. Yeah, and I'm a little bummed that we had the webinar last week and not this week because it feels like in the last 7 days there's been all kinds of AI news and events going on, with the introduction of DeepSeek, which seems to set the standard a little bit higher when it comes to the efficiency of some of these models. And since it's open source, we might see what these other companies taking what works well from that algorithm and that model and putting it into their own. And so I feel like we're probably about to see an acceleration, if that's even possible, in the advancements of some of this AI stuff. But what we did talk about is still the AI search engine aspect and how these search engines or these AI search engines are able to provide these direct answers. We talk about what the difference is between that and traditional search. And that was really kind of one of the big questions that we started off with Darren. It's how are these AI search engines different from traditional search like Google when you have, the old school 10 blue links with the different pages and everything. So we talked to Darren about that, and let's take a look at what he had to say about that in our webinar last week. Or thoughts around these new AI search engines, how are they different than Google? Where do you see them continuing to grow this year in importance, or what's kind of your vibe on it?
So my vibe is it's come a long way and it's shockingly good. Like it's like you run a search GPT for a local term like dentists, my city, recommend some dentists in Dallas. So you're going to get these results. You get a map. You get a list of results. You could see them in map view or list view. It's looking pretty strong local search results. And so we are seeing them getting quite good at this. The user base is still minuscule. Google has 90% of the market share. They continue to have that. I see a trickle of people starting to search using that alternative search platform, but it is not it's not significant now. But because it's getting pretty good, people are going to it. And guess what? It also doesn't have. It doesn't have ads. So it's a kind of a better experience. People will start discovering it. I predict that usage will grow significantly, exponentially over the course of 2020.
All right. So there are a couple of takeaways that I have from that segment from the webinar with Darren. The first being the ad-free experience, those direct answers with the AI search engines. That's going to be, as of right now, from my experience, I love the fact that I'm not getting peppered with ads and I'm not looking at the top of the results and it says sponsored. I'm able to just see what it thinks the best response is. The other thing that I noticed, that stuck out to me was that he was talking about how the local aspect of Search GPT and Perplexity has improved. And I remember whenever it first came out, or even before it came out officially to the public, a lot of the beta testers were saying, the answer engine is good. It can help you provide some answers if you need them, but the local isn't quite there. So it's interesting to see that Darren is, after a few months of this being out and around and people are using it more, that the local aspect is improving. And I think that's only going to be the case even more. But one of the really big things when it comes to these AI search engines that I personally just love is the ability to ask a follow-up question. Being able to just, ask it, okay, well, why did you recommend these businesses to me? Or what's the if you ask it to find a pizza place, it's like, okay, well, wait, does that place that you recommended, do they have gluten-free options? You can ask it follow-up questions, which is I think is super powerful. What was your takeaway from that, Sirit?
Absolutely. That's a great point. I completely agree there. And one thing I want to point out that you very correctly mentioned is that AI answer engines or search engines, they recommend, whereas, all the Google searches that we've been doing so far, having to scour through multiple, search results and finding for yourself a good option. And here AI is pulling up maps for you, structured reviews, and just a very nice search result. So yeah, definitely, AI does have a long way to go because Google still owns a majority of the market, but then it is definitely going to make a mark.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And and as Darren said, Google still has that strong market share. And it's not like they're just going to lay down and let these new platforms overtake them.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, even in the last
definitely.
couple of weeks, Gemini has come out with some really big updates. I think, and he was saying in the long run, he thinks Google's still going to win this AI war, or so to speak. I think, or at least in the search aspect. And, I think that is a pretty good bet. I'm excited to see kind of Google's full response to these AI search engines. Like you see a little bit with the AIOs and things like that. And so that's another thing that I wanted to kind of get clear here is that, with Search GPT and Perplexity, these, we're talking about this because we want to be early to the game. Google is still important. It's still the number one place that business, customers are going to find businesses, but we can see the landscape is changing. And so the reason we're talking about this is because we want to get ahead of it. We don't want to, look 6 months from now, a year, 2 years from now and realize, oh, wow, the landscape is very different. There's people coming from all kinds of different search engines and platforms. So that's why we're talking about this now, is because we want to get ahead of it. But I think it's important to remember that that doesn't mean Google is dead or SEO is dead. In fact, SEO and Google might be even more important now, as we'll talk about. But one of the questions that we've been getting from the folks and the local businesses that we work with, as well as the people who tuned into the webinar, and something that we talked about with Darren is, how do you rank on these platforms? If these are going to, I think even though Darren thinks that the Google's going to win the overall, search battle, these platforms are still, I don't think they're going to go away. I think they still have, sticking power. And so how do you rank? How do you show up on these platforms? And let's see what Darren had to say about that. Because it was really interesting in terms of that.
And actually, digital PR is a huge thing that will absolutely positively impact your visibility on Google, but also on all these LLMs. Digital PR it's a linchpin for visibility across search platforms. It's like all of these platforms are trying to return the best answer. Who are the best companies in this city for that industry? And so that is evaluated based on reputation. How many reviews do they have? What are people saying about the business? Are they present on these best of lists? How many people are mentioning them? Are they present in their community? So a lot of the stuff that you've always already been doing, best practices for Google, they certainly apply to the LLM.
Yeah. And so, this was, where he's talking about the importance of the digital PR and the citations. And the reason for that is because whenever you use Search GPT, you'll see that it provides you sources or citations of like where it got its recommendations from. And I encourage everybody here, to do this is go into Search GPT. It's free for all users. When you go in, you click on the little globe icon there in the search bar and ask it, who are the best dentists in the North Texas area, or whatever your business is in your area. Ask it, and it'll give you that map that'll pop up. In addition, it'll give you those sources, and you click on that, and on the right side of the screen, you'll see a whole list of citations, and you'll notice that you'll have, the company's websites and things like that too, but you'll have a lot of these articles in these sort of like, press release type deals where it's, top 10 best dentists in North Texas, or the best, jacuzzi dealers in Austin, or, San Francisco's top places for, financial management. All of these little things, matter now, and they matter to Google as well. They've always mattered. Maybe, the level of importance has changed, but something that we are seeing is that this is where these AI, or at least Search GPT and these AI search engines, are pulling information from. And now that's going to be important again. And that kind of content is going to be important again. And I think that's going to show a big impact, as we go down the line. We might see some manipulation of it because now people are starting to see that and they may be like, okay, well, let me see if I can pay my way into all of these lists and try to rank higher on Search GPT. But right now, that's what we are seeing. What was your take on that?
Definitely, Justin. I agree with you here again because it's actually good to see that the SEO fundamentals they still apply. It all boils down to whether it's ChatGPT or it's Perplexity or Gemini or Google search. Ultimately, it all boils down to the quality of the content that we're posting, or how strong the backlinks are, and how many reviews we have, how many of them are good reviews. So again, these are not just Google ranking factors anymore. They are, they get the universal credibility of any business. So it's good to see that SEO is still around.
Definitely. So, and I think that's a great point when you're talking about the SEO fundamentals. And Darren actually had a really good piece about that as well. Let's take a look at what he was saying.
Yeah. So there's a lot of talk about that over the course of the last year. How do you rank? How do you get better visibility in Search GPT? How do you get better visibility in Perplexity and Claude, any of these AI engines? Because you see the results that Gemini is returning are different than what you get in Google's results. So as SEOs, we're pretty well positioned. This is what we've been doing for 2 decades, is figuring out how do these rankings work? Why were those businesses returned? And I will preface this as, I guess, as anything in SEO, is everyone's just guessing. No one has the solid answer. This is how it works. But there are a few things. So basically, your SEO strategy that you've been doing forever still applies here. It's having great relevant content that matches what the user's searching for. It's having good reputation is actually a huge factor. So having lots of reviews across a diverse set of sites, having lots of mentions for your business and links to your website. So traditional SEO, huge, right? Has a big impact on how you rank in Google, but also how you appear in these LLMs.
So I thought that was a great piece because, something that I've noticed and we've talked about in previous webinars with our other guests like Ben Fisher and Steve Wiedemann is the more things change, the more they stay the same. Google's always been changing. It has been for 20 years. And that's been the whole SEO game, right? It's figuring out what's changing with the Google landscape? How can SEOs respond to make sure that their websites stay ranking high? And this is no different. It's just a bigger shift. But one of the things that I think is really interesting when it comes to Darren's take here is that these traditional SEO best practices still apply. Same thing with the digital PR and the citations, which has always been good for Google. Maybe the importance has changed, but it's still, beneficial. It doesn't hurt you. And the thing with what we're seeing now with these AI search engines is now it doesn't, maybe instead of just focusing on your Google presence, you have to expand it. So now you have these other listing sites with reviews, and you have these other websites where your business information's, is located, whether it's your name and your address and things like that. Now it's not so much that you have to just worry about Google. You have to, expand your reach, and so to speak, or at least put your, have your fingerprints in more places online. When you really drill down into it, the traditional SEO best practices that people, or at least online reputation best practices, still apply, and they still work, because that's how these algorithms find it. If you were to imagine yourself as a person and someone's like, hey, Justin, can you find me the best dentist in Dallas, Texas? I'd be like, okay. And when you start searching, you start looking at these things like, okay, what are the reviews of these dentist office? Which one's a good one? Do they have a lot of reviews? What are people saying about them? I found this article, the top 10 best dentists in Dallas. What are those? You kind of evaluate it in the same way that these algorithms would. And so you could kind of think about it in that same way when you're trying to figure out what content or where should I be putting my business online in order to help it gain that traction. Is the same thing. What was your take on that, Sarah?
Definitely. I think, again, as I said, no matter what the platform is, even AI search is built on, the credibility signals. And if you're invisible, if, you're invisible on Google or on other platforms, then you're automatically invisible on AI-driven search engines. So your presence, your online reputation still holds the same importance as it always did. So then again, your point about digital PR again holds true for this one.
Definitely. So obviously, the hype around these AI search engines is high. There's a lot of, it's every day. There's a new update, whether it's with the DeepSeek stuff that we're seeing, whether it's, OpenAI is bringing in their operator capability, which is really exciting. I think Google even just announced some new capabilities with Gemini when it comes to the latest Galaxy phone. I can't remember exactly which one, but they just came out with some new updates. And, a lot of this stuff is flashy and it's new and it's exciting, and people can see, one of the things I've noticed is I can just, when you experience a new AI tool or capability, you can kind of see, okay, I can see how this is going to be even better down the line. Like where you were to create, back in the day when you were to use Midjourney or an image generator, and you're like, wow, this is awesome, but I can see how this is going to get even better, because if it can create one image, why not 100 images together and it create a video? And so we're starting to see that too. And that, I think that's a big thing with this AI stuff, is you can, when you experience it, you can look down the line and be like, oh yeah, I can really see how this is going to be amazing. But that's down the line. And and right now we're still living in the right now, and Google is still the king of search, and they're involved as much as anybody else when it comes to AI. And so they're going to figure out a way to do that. And, Darren had an interesting take about, the role of Google and their relationship with these AI search engines, and kind of how he is assessing the future of Google's dominance. Let's take a look at that. Oh, so where'd it go?
Google has 90% of the market share. They continue to have that. I see a trickle of people starting to search using that alternative search platform, but it is not, it's not significant now. But because it's getting pretty good, people are going to it. And guess what? It also doesn't have. It doesn't have ads. So it's a kind of a better experience. People will start discovering it. I predict that usage will grow significantly, exponentially over the course of 2025. And so it is a search platform you need to think about. I do think that long term, Google will probably still win the AI race, and that's because they have the mass population already using Google, and so they might be a little bit behind on some functionality, and ChatGPT is currently ahead of them. But ChatGPT can make the greatest product in the world, but if they don't have the user base to use it, Google can make a good enough product and still crush them.
Yeah, I think he makes a great point. Google just isn't the search engine, it's a habit. You don't look something up, you Google it, right? People are used to it. And so I think breaking that habit is probably going to be the biggest barrier for maybe some of these AI search engines. But it's also going to be the biggest value for Google in terms of their staying power, while it gives them the time to come back with their version of Search GPT or whatever it may be.
Definitely. I think AI definitely is a better product, as we've been discussing, in terms of, the way that, the search results are structured, and the depth of it all. But then Google has all the users. It's got the masses, it's got the base. So that's going to be hard to break. So yeah, I think Google and AI just will find a way to coexist. And then again, as you said, Google is going to keep coming up with more, with improved versions of Gemini. So
Definitely. Yeah. And people have learned how to use Google. I think the common mistake that we as marketers can make is because we're so involved in this side of the
yeah,
digital landscape, we're so much more tuned into it where we're noticing things maybe the common person isn't. But most people, one of the things that we do see people like on LinkedIn or these marketing gurus, they say like, oh, Google is dead. People aren't, the search results are
yeah,
so much worse than they used to be. But I don't think the common searcher, the common customer is quite looking at it. I think they're just so used to Googling something, finding what they need. If anything, they've gotten better at it to where they don't have to search around as much. Like they know how to use the keywords to get the result that they want. And so that habit is going to stick around. And I think it's going to take, a little while for some big percentage shakeups in the market share, rankings. But now let's talk about, maybe another kind of, area that's interesting, and not so much just for local businesses, but marketing agencies and, agencies that help these local businesses manage not only their online reputation, but all of their marketing assets and such. Because, these agencies, one of the things that they're dealt or tasked with is they don't get to just focus on one business. They have a lot of clients, and sometimes a lot of these clients have lots of different locations. And when you have an agency and you've got all these different clients and you've got all these locations and you're dealing with all these different things, there's a lot to juggle, and it can get really complex really quick, especially because, as we've been talking about with these new updates and these new AI tools coming out seemingly every day, it's kind of just a flurry of just stuff coming at you. And so it could be a little bit paralyzing to understand, to know, okay, well, what AI tool is the best, or how can I do this? How do I keep track of everything? And in the webinar, we were joined by Nate Henry, who's the vice president of channel resellers here at Birdeye. He's been in the space for nearly 2 decades when it comes to software, when it comes to local business marketing. This guy, and especially with agencies, this guy is, he's legit when it comes to this stuff. He knows his stuff. And so he had a really interesting take on the challenges that agencies are currently facing when it comes to marketing successfully in the AI era. So let's take a look at what he was saying.
I said earlier in this call, a lot of agencies have 50 different contracts with software vendors. If you can consolidate that down, it's not about the contracting efficiency. That's important, but contracting is a one-time event. It's really about the day-to-day efficiency. It's the same reason that people hire agencies to begin with. You hire agencies so you have one person, one organization that understands all your KPIs from a marketing perspective, and they can take all those things into consideration with everything they do. When a business does this with Birdeye, whether they buy from us direct or it's an agency that's trying to bring efficiencies in as a partnership, it gives them one place where they can get a lot of different things done rather than 10 different tabs and different point solutions that don't talk to one another, let alone being able to. You think when you have all these different solutions and you need to tell a story of what is working or what isn't working, how are you going to pull all that story together into one?
Yeah, I love Nate's take on this because he's right. some agencies, they're juggling up to 50 different contracts with different vendors and marketing tools just to make sure that they have everything they need to serve their clients the best way that they can. It's not an easy thing to keep track of. And as I said, there's new tools coming in every day. It's always coming. It could be a real, pain to try to figure out. And when it comes to finding those real efficiencies, finding those ways where agencies can save money, reduce costs, provide better services, it comes down to, how do you save time juggling all of that? How do you make it easier? How do you streamline it? How do you make it easier to work through everything? And, and how do you get better data out of that, on the back end?
Definitely. And I think juggling 50 plus contracts also means that some of those, businesses have multiple locations. So that's another added layer to it. So yeah, definitely consolidation. You rightly said it's not just about saving money. It's about saving time and having an optimized workflow and getting better data so that you can analyze it in a better way and produce, an enhanced performance as an agency as well, which is crucial.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's the same thing for these larger local businesses with 10, 50, 100, 300 locations, right? The more locations you have, the more complex it is. You've got 100 Google business profiles, 100 Bing listings, 100 Yelp profiles, Apple listings, whatever it may be. The complexity grows with each location. And so for an agency, they've got a lot of customers, a lot of locations. It can get real messy real fast. And so the big question is whether you're an agency or you're a multi-location or even a small business, with 1 or 2 locations, how do you simplify your marketing and get the most out of it? Whether that's ranking more in these AI search engines, ranking higher in Google, attracting more customers, or even, maybe let's say you do rank in that top 3 local map pack on Google, but how do you make sure that you're standing out from your competition? What do you have to do to make sure that, your Google business profile, when customers are looking, they, because when you're looking at a Google business profile, when you're just doing a normal search, like if you're looking for a restaurant, there are, hundreds of responses and you're looking at them quickly. You're looking at the star rating, the pictures, you're looking at the description, you're trying to get those answers really quickly. So businesses don't have very long to capture that customer's attention and get them to click on their appointment a button, or click through their website. That opportunity to convert is so short. So how do you stand out? And so that's really the big question. And we talked about that a little bit as well in the webinars too. So let's take a look and see what we had to say about that. That's the great thing that Birdeye does well, is it allows you to ask, but it also allows you to track everything. You can respond to all of these different sites. So you can generate reviews for all of these sites that these AI search engines and Google are looking at. And one of the really cool things is the insight side of it, the analytics. More recently, we came out with something called Competitors AI, which is something that allows you to keep track of what your customers are saying, not only about you, but about your competitors. And so you can compare your strengths and weaknesses. It actually gives you one of those McKinsey type level SWOT analysis at the drop of a hat. Something that would honestly, for market research purposes, would take a week or 2 to put together. You can generate in minutes, and it gives you a full breakdown of exactly how the local market feels about you versus your competitors. Yeah. So I'm always, it's always hard to hear my own voice, but the cool thing about that was what we were talking about is with something like Birdeye, as we were talking about with all this complexity and the multiple locations and all these different profiles and trying to generate reviews and engage consistently across everything, you have to have a platform that can help you do that seamlessly. And that's what makes Birdeye so incredible, is that from generating reviews to post transaction surveys, to your social media, to web chat with like the chat bot on your website, to managing your listings like your Google business profiles, or even generating reviews on some of those other niche sites that now we know these AI search engines look for. Being able to do all of that with one platform, no matter how many locations you have, is an absolute game changer, especially because it's not like Birdeye isn't working on AI stuff of their own. In fact, we've been doing this for years, and our capabilities are insane, especially with something like our competitors' AI features, where you can essentially, you put in your business information, like let's say you've got your account set up and everything. And like I was saying, you can get this McKinsey level SWOT analysis in minutes. This is something that would take weeks if you had to do this manually. Like imagine if you're a marketer and you're sitting in your cubicle and your boss comes up and says, hey, Justin, I need you to run a competitor analysis on all of the businesses in our area. I need to see what do they do well? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? How do they compare to our strengths and weaknesses? What are their customers saying about them? I need you to compile all this research and put it in a format for me to understand so I can figure out what we can do to better improve the business. And if I were to be asked that, I'd be like, sure, boss, I'll get back to you in, let's say 1 to 2 weeks after I comb through the internet for all of these businesses and figure out exactly and put all this stuff together. And, to be able to just do that at the drop of a hat is insane. And and that's what this competitor's AI tool can do. It scans the internet, it pulls in all the information from all the competitors in your area. It compares the sentiment analysis of their reviews. It compares, you can even watch their social media activity. So if the oil change shop down the road, posts about a 25% discount, you can post your 30% discount immediately right after them. There's a lot that you can do, and it gives you such power in terms of being able to make decisions quickly. It's just one of those really cool tools that I encourage everybody to check out, at least to learn more about it, because the power that it gives you is just incredible.
Definitely. And I think visibility is not just about ranking anymore. So it's definitely, about being seen across the entire search ecosystem. And Birdeye is what, makes it easier to monitor and, manage. And across different locations, all you need is one platform that, literally does it all. So I
Yeah.
think it's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, it truly is it really is your online reputation. And how do you manage that effectively so that your customers will choose, so that potential customers can choose you and these AI search engines find and choose you as well. Now, this was a great breakdown of some of the things that we talked about in our most recent webinar, but I definitely encourage everybody to go and watch it for yourself. There's way too much from this webinar that we wanted to include that we couldn't, because Darren was just spitting facts the whole time. It was incredible. And, it was such a fun conversation. So we'll provide the link to that in the comments, but I definitely encourage everybody to go to the Birdeye website and look at the webinar. It's part of our local search expert series. It's the state of local marketing in the era of AI. And, to follow up on that discussion with Darren, we're going to be having a conversation with another SEO expert, Joy Hawkins, on February 13th. And in that discussion, we're going to talk more about, with this webinar that we had with Darren, we talked a lot about these AI search engines, what we're seeing over the horizon. And we touched a little bit about how Google's still the king. But in this discussion with Joy, we're going to really dig into that Google side, especially if you're a multi-location business. So be sure to go to the website and sign up for that webinar. We're going to be talking about really how to grow your business across all your locations on Google. And so if you're a multi-location business, if you're an agency that's dealing with a lot of clients, I highly encourage you to check that out. But it looks like that's all the time that we have for today. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to check out the recording, and we'll see you on the next episode of Birdeye Live. Thanks, guys.
Today, businesses face unprecedented competition, economic challenges, and rising customer expectations. To stay ahead, you need to outsmart your competitors. Tracking every move your competitors make can be overwhelming, especially with data coming from multiple sources. That's where Competitors AI makes a difference. Gain a competitive edge by accessing all your rivals' key public data, customer reviews, social content, and online reputation and sentiment, all in one unified platform. Birdeye Competitors AI. Benchmark your competition's performance using the Birdeye score, reputation score, and sentiment score. Transform raw data into actionable SWOT analyses, clearly identifying your competitors' strengths and weaknesses. Get common themes from competitors' reviews, showing you what's working, what's not, and what's in between. With snippets, explore a word cloud of recurring mentions and dive deeper into specific reviews for clear, actionable insights. That's not all. Compare your performance against competitors using the Birdeye grid, where you can visually evaluate market presence and customer satisfaction. Plus, get a summarized view of competitive reviews for any time period you select. Social media is a powerful tool for shaping customer perception. Competitors AI lets you track your competitors' social media activity to see which posts resonate most with their audience. Use these insights to refine your own content strategy and create posts that stand out. Ready to understand your competitors better than they understand themselves? Get started today with Birdeye Competitors AI and unlock the power of real-time AI-driven competitive intelligence.